Is Mr. Lyons on with us?
He must be.
Yes, I'm here.
Very good. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Paul.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're going to call this meeting to order. Please stand and pledge the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you call the roll, please, Minette?
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Orthwein. Here. Vice Mayor Stanley.
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Let the record also reflect that Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Manager and Attorney Edward Nazaro, Captain Hasley sitting in for Chief Allen, and myself. for president.
Very good. We've been presented with the number of minutes from our regular meeting September 9th, tentative budget meeting of September 9th, as well as the special meeting of September 21st, and the final budget hearing of September 21st. Are there any corrections, changes, or comments?
I move that be accepted as presented.
Second.
Commissioner Smith,
Renee?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, under the town manager's reports, we are taking number 1 off. And so therefore we only have 2 items on that.
So the roofing on the Blue Water Cove is off.
That's correct.
Very good. Okay. Our next meeting is November 11th at 9 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Public comment.
We have to.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we need to approve the second minutes of.
We did them all.
We did
Oh,
them
you
all
did them
at
all.
one time.
I'm sorry.
We need to
I
change
didn't-
that
Just
November
wait.
11th because it's Veterans
I want
Day.
to announce it.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
So can y'all do the 10th?
I'm sorry?
We need to change the 11th. It's Veterans Day. It's a holiday. So we need to move it to the 10th if y'all are available.
so they
November.
celebrated on the 11th. Okay.
So changing the regular meeting to November 10th. Any problems with that? All right, let's make that change.
If I'm correct, I mean, the town is closed on.
Town is closed on Veterans Day, yeah.
Okay. All right, and
Yes,
before we
and
get to public comment.
yes, I'd like to introduce our newest employee. This is our new accounting clerk. It's Lolita Bazdeo. Lolita was born in Trinidad and Tobago, but she was raised in Orlando. She went to the University of Florida. But we overlooked that, and but she's doing a great job. She's a very quick learn, and we're pleased to have her.
Great, well, welcome, Lolita. Good to have you. Okay, public comment. Anybody wish to speak? If not, let's move on then to our public hearing.
Mayor, before you
Yes,
start,
sir.
I'm going to recuse myself from voting on this matter since I've represented the prior record title holder.
All right, Mr. Stanley's being recused. Any ex parte communications to be announced? Anyone who's going to speak on the on this application in Plaza Soleil, Lot 93, please rise and be sworn. Very good. Who's going to present the application? Sir?
Okay. Architect Shane Ames, 203 Dixie Boulevard, Delray Beach, Florida. We have a very unusual lot. It's a corner lot right as you're entering Plaza Soleil. It is surrounded on the street side as you're coming in. You wrap around with large trees owned by the city and a very large hedge owned by the city. So we are tucked in to the front. We have gone through and worked with the city. We originally had presented a 3-car garage and found that that was not allowed in the exceptions because of the side street that it is on. So we redesigned the house and created a 2-car garage, side entry, with a one golf cart around the side of the building. We have placed the house in such a manner that we've used the depth of the lot in creating a beautiful turnaround in the front. Turnaround entrance is right in by the in front of the stop sign, so that we can come in Place au Soleil and turn and go right into the driveway directly, and then the circle looping out and about. We have gone for the 300 square foot exception, and as the design of the house and the front, the exception is just pulling the large veranda out the back of the building. It does not affect any of the massing of the house whatsoever in the front. It's always going to be the same width and same stature. And we chose a one-story house in this neighborhood, as it's all of the surrounding houses are one story, instead of doing a two-story house with a smaller lot footprint. In our style, we've created more of a modern tropical style. You can see to the rendering. Very subdued, has a nice entrance feature coming in. Some small dormers on the roof, and the two side entry garage, two car. Straight on view from the street. So the massing is all within proportions of the allowables in the city. And that on the left is the large city's hedge that's there currently, and the trees, which completely blocks the side view when you're driving in Place au Soleil all the way around to the corner. So the only thing you will see is the front of the house. This is the rear of the house with the large veranda with the cupola on top.
Is the cupola functional?
Yes, it has ventilation up there, and the air flows up through it. As
And
you can see the ceiling.
all three of them, or just one?
Just the one.
So the ones on the front are just decorative?
Decorative windows, clear story windows above. And they are set back behind the entrance feature. The entrance feature is forward. There are two internal courtyards with plants growing up in there, and they're intended to be plants growing up and being able to pop through that roof.
The hedge is the city's?
Yes.
Okay, I'm confused about it. Okay.
There's a hedge that runs along Avenue au Soleil. I believe it's the homeowners associations acquired that when the house was
I just want to know who's taking
in
care of it.
disrepair. Yeah, no, it is the homeowners association over there.
Okay.
And you can see the piece on the left over there is the hedge, and we've kept, I would say, 95% of it. We may have cut off just a little tail end to get the driveway working in the front right now.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes, good morning. Let me put on my video. Can you see me? Let me see if I can put this on. You don't need to see me.
Can you make it
Here we go.
louder?
I'm trying.
There he is.
Okay. Can I make, I'll speak up louder. Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. I had shared with the town manager that I would not be able to attend today's meeting because of some travel plans I have this afternoon to Europe. So I'm sorry not to be there. But I also wanted to share my observations and thoughts on this application. So I have three comments. First, I want to thank the applicant for designing a one-story house. Given the size of this house, I think one story is appropriate. Because the size of this house relative to the adjacent neighboring properties, it's much bigger. I think if you organize the square footage in a two-story house, it might be too massive. So thank you for doing that. On the architectural style, I'm troubled by the proposal. And I have some comments I've written down, so I'm going to read it so I don't mumble too much. It looks more contemporary than Colonial West Indies. And I say that because the pitch of the roof in some cases looks pretty low. Some tall, narrow, vertical windows in some elevations, large windows in proportion to the wall or elevations in some other areas, big glass entry. And it lacks certain design details or features of a Colonial West Indies home, such as a more pitch roof, shutters, railings, occasional columns, more decorative touches such as corbels. You have a few up there, but in the typical Colonial West Indies home I've seen, it's every every 3 or 4 feet, these corbels. So I think this doesn't meet our code. And the third observation I would bring up is a special exception. I don't see any compelling reason for the special exception, particularly due to the large size of the home in the context of the streetscape where the homes are considerably smaller. We do have a new code that discourages excessively dissimilar homes in various criteria, including size. So I don't see a justification for the special exception. So those are my observations. Thank you, Mayor.
Other comments? Tom?
Yes, and I agree with Paul. This is the second or third or maybe fourth new build that we've had come in front of us where they're using the maximum effective FAR that they can build on the property and then still want a special exception. While I agree that you probably won't see it because it's in the rear of the property, I think if we're going to allow it with everything that comes through, then it really isn't a special exception. It's just something we're going to automatically grant on everything that comes before us. I have some question about the front doors. They look to be glass front doors. Can you describe those, sir?
Yes,
They're all glass panels.
there are glass front doors.
I'm not sure that's
allowed.
I'm not sure that's allowed in our code.
I agree with you.
And
Yeah, those could easily be solid doors with no problem, if that's a condition.
The code does allow a combination of glass.
correct, that's what I
wood.
thought, but not, these look to be all glass almost.
Correct. And it doesn't give a percentage of either glass or wood, but it does allow a combination or a solid wood door.
So you,
Traditionally, we've emphasized wood with some glass.
Right.
right,
Yes, that would be no problem to change that out to a solid wood door.
I think we had an application a while back. Where there was some discussion about that. They had wood at the bottom.
Right.
and my third comment is the door that you call them dormers on the front. I just don't think they architecturally fit not only this house, I don't know what house they would fit. That's why we asked, is there a purpose? I can understand the one in the back where you have a real utilization for it, but in the front, I don't think they help define the architectural style that you're describing. That's all. That's the only comments I have.
Oh, may I comment on?
Sure.
Okay. The dormers are clear story windows. They're directly, what you don't see, the windows behind the entrance feature. So go to the floor plan.
They're going to be up over those like courtyard areas on either side of the front door?
Yes, behind the courtyard area has a green area with a hole in the ceiling of the roof for plants to be able to grow up and sunlight to come down into that area.
Okay.
And those dormers are directly above the
Over those.
windows
Okay, I can see that.
there, so they are
They
functional.
have a function.
They do have a function. And as far as the special exception, the size and the look of the house would be identical with the special exception, without the special exception, because a special exception is to the rear of the house. It would not make the massing of the house, the width of the house, or the height of the house any different from what it is on this.
Can you, with your finger or your pointer, show me where that 298 feet are gonna be?
It's all in this back veranda.
It just enlarges that area.
Enlarges the outside veranda.
And with respect to those features on the roof, if you look at A-02, that sheet,
Yeah.
you can see the features, and then right below it,
Courtyard, which is a very large hole in there, plants would be growing through.
the area right beside it is open.
Yeah.
That's where the plants grow through. The entry feature is hard to decipher from the pictures because the colors blend in. And originally, I thought that the entry feature was too tall, but it's not.
Okay. Joan, do you have?
You know, I'm not an architect, but I think it looks more modern than West Indies. That would be my first comment. And everyone knows here, I'm not a proponent of special exceptions when you're building a new house. Because I think, you know, you should stay within, I don't think special exceptions apply to new houses, but that's only my opinion.
I mean, you had described it as your first word in describing it was modern.
It's a modern interpretation
Right.
of
Right.
Indy.
And that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
What struck me was two things. Number one, the verticality of the windows, which I did not think was West Indian, and the lack of shutters, which would be a West Indies requirement. Hence the modern interpretation. Therefore, I don't think it falls within our code's definition of West Indy because we don't modernize it. I think without the shutters and the definition of these vertical windows, in combination with that front doorway, would lean me toward rejecting it, at least having it changed to bring it more into conformity with what a traditional West Indian house would look like.
I agree with that.
I agree. I'd like to see some
Yeah.
change. Yes, to the facade in particular.
I think more traditional West Indies would be the word.
I think what we should do, if it's okay with you, is to vote on the special exception, because I have a feeling I know where that's going to go, and allow the application to be then withdrawn for amendment instead of a reapplication in terms of a redesign. Mr. Nazaro, is that?
So, I mean, one of your options would be to send it back to the ARPB with instructions to make modifications. And we can certainly have a discussion with the ARPB at the time that this was a modern interpretation and modern is not consistent with the code. And we're looking at more of a traditional architectural style. We can look at some homes that have been approved with this architectural style in town as a comparison and sort of help guide the ARPB with exactly what your expectations are.
And from your comments today, I think the staff understands where you're going with this and can counsel them
Okay.
based on your comments.
Special exception?
I mean, you can certainly tell the applicant that if you're feeling like it's inappropriate or the criteria are not met, you can certainly provide that instruction now. So you're kind of sending the application back to the ARPB. you can, again, counsel the applicant that, the special exception, if you don't feel like it's appropriate.
Well, you had 3 comments opposing the special exception.
Sure.
It's not going to pass the commission,
Right.
regardless of any other votes. So do we take that vote or do we send it back with that indication?
Yeah, I would send it back with that indication. Yes, sir.
All right,
I
and I think that's what we should do.
I move to send it back to the ARPB with the modifications suggested by the commission.
I'll second that.
Ms. Bevan?
Mayor?
Smith?
No, before,
Mr. Lyons is asking to speak.
Yes, Paul?
yeah, I appreciate everyone's comments. Just one observation. I'm a little concerned about the term modification. This house is so far from, I think, the criteria of being a colonial West Indies that I don't want to give the impression to the applicant that a couple of tweaks and you can fix it. I think it's a pretty major redo. So I just want to be sure that, in fairness to the applicant, at least in my perspective, that he understands that there's a lot to be done on this house. And, doing a few things isn't going to, from my perspective, or in any case, would move the ball forward for him. So a modification might be a little too kind and not clearly sending the correct message. That's just a thought.
No, that's a good point. I just would prefer not to vote to reject it in deference to the applicant, because he's made it all his way to the commission to facilitate without additional fees.
Right.
Revision of this plan, but I agree with you. Based on the comments today, the changes need to be rather significant. All right, we have a motion.
In a second.
Second, Ms. Basil.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortline?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, oh, he was accused. Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Dina?
All right, we're moving on then. Town manager report, the meter reread.
Yes, sir. Okay, so at some point in time, the town enforced an ordinance that's actually in the code book called field visit charge. And what this addresses, for the most part, are rereads on water bills. But it also includes services that could include but not be limited to, I'll just read it to you. Individual turn on and turn off of service on a temporary or seasonal basis, location of water service line, which we do very often. I mean, even the private lines, we help people out. Special read of a meter due to a customer request, and including an obstruction by the customer, meter reread, customer facility inspection, and so on. And the code says that there shall be a $15 bill by the town on the first bill subsequent to the field visit. At some point in time, the town stopped doing that, and maybe you guys know when they did. Maybe there were too many complaints about it or something, but ever since I've been here, we've not been doing that. But it also has similar to when we adjust a water bill. As the commission knows, our standard operating policy is to provide one adjustment for, if the reasons are valid and it's been corrected, and we have proof of that, to allow one adjustment per year. Y'all are familiar with that, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this does the same thing. So it provides for one free reread or trip out there to investigate what's going on. And so we're just suggesting that perhaps that we reinstitute that. Again, it gives one free reread.
What is the So on the reread thing, this is typically like in the system, we'll see an abnormality, which may or may not be the owner's fault. And y'all will go out there and check it again, correct? Like on a leak, it could be.
We get many people. that
Like, what's the
come.
volume on that?
That's why I have,
What was the question, Mayor? I'm sorry.
how many rereads?
Yeah, I mean, the
typically do
rereads
we
with some
get?
issue that may or may not be a resident's fault. Like, what's the volume on that? Just, you know, as
Well, the complaints
How many a
that
month?
On the
necessitate for it.
typical read of that we do by monthly, we get on an average in between 20 and 30 of them that we have to go back out and
It's a
do.
lot.
okay.
And it takes me, myself personally, when I'm doing the data log read, to have it synced to the device and reread it and wait for it to upload. It takes about 20 minutes per meter to do that.
And it takes approximately an hour and a half, 2 hours of Dina's time to redo all the paperwork.
Yeah, because she has to take it from spreadsheet form and put it onto a separate file that she creates for the customer so they can understand it, you know, so layman's terms.
Proposing is, you get one.
We do,
After that, we should charge a fee.
we do have some regular reread requests and
What's the fee?
it's $15.
Oh, okay. Okay. You see what's going on with water though. Do you notify people if it's out of, because,
Oh, we do.
yeah, I think that's very
Yeah,
good
we
though.
do.
I mean, because a lot of times if something's really wrong, you can notify people right away.
Right.
If there's, so,
And again, we only bill, bi-monthly. So we do, I mean, when we notice that and, our
Yeah,
new
no, you
meters,
tell
we
people.
can see that on a daily basis.
yeah.
And I can hear Dina and they're telling them, well, on this day between the hours of 9 and 12, you used this many gallons of water. So,
I agree with this. I mean,
it's just a matter of reinstituting this.
Yeah.
And perhaps, I don't know, I want to do one of those little trifold notices to our residents, but probably in November. I don't know, maybe we can notice them about this.
I just
give
wanted to
them
make-
a warning.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure what the volume is because the average resident just thinks that, well, there might be a couple residents a month that had a burst pipe or something wrong
Right.
with the pool and that's it. Instead of,
Right.
even though we're a small town, there's
Well,
larger scale.
I would say the highest,
time.
the higher percentage of these requests is due to the fact that their bill is high,
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
not because they
Right.
suspect that there's a leak or something.
So it'd be one free per year,
I think that's.
not per
what this
billing
is.
cycle, because,
Yeah, per year.
Correct.
per
It's,
year.
it's per year.
And if it's determined that it's the town's fault for some
Then-
reason,
then it
then we
doesn't count.
waive it.
Right.
Okay.
It's the same way we do for water bill adjustments.
Yeah. Okay.
The other would be is $15 the rate.
Yeah, that's my question.
But
I think
didn't
some,
even laugh when it.
It's really time consuming when I have to do the reports because the residents actually want a day by day breakdown. So
Oh,
I have
wow.
to log in, take it from there, put it over to the spreadsheet each day, and it's basically 60 days that I have to do. one by
Right,
one.
what's
Oh, wow.
reasonable?
Right, so we would,
$15 does not cover your
It
costs.
does.
well, that's what I was gonna say. It'd be nice to figure out the time that it takes staff to do it, and we can adjust the fee in the ordinance from $15 to whatever the actual cost is.
I thought we had determined that maybe Boynton charges like $50 to do this.
Ooh.
No, Delray charges 30. I know
30,
because I live in
okay,
Delray.
because you keep calling for reread. Okay.
So we're somewhere between 30 and 50
Look, you don't want it to be
punitive.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Well, on the other hand, you want to discourage repetitive
Repetitive.
complaints, which we have.
I think that's what we're trying to
So
do.
$30
is
bucks? 30
Sounds better
bucks,
than
which is
50.
doubling the fee.
I mean, we have some residents that every billing cycle request a
Yeah, That's what
reread.
I wanted to know.
They
I would-
request
That's
a
what we're
data
trying
log.
to discourage.
I'd do 30. That-
Yeah,
that's-
I agree with
Let's
that.
start with 30. Yeah, okay.
Right.
But
Okay, so
also if
that
someone
would be the
calls
cost,
and
$30.
says my bill's way a lot, you can say, yes, it is, or no, it isn't. You probably have a leak too. They don't have to do a whole full scale.
Well,
investigation.
Well, I mean, whenever we do a data log, Ms. Orthorn, the process of it, that as I'm reading it to get the information out of the meter, I can literally look at, see what day, what time the amount of water is being used, and it
Yeah.
fluctuates throughout the week. I go knock on the door and let them know immediately. If I see something that's really abnormal, like 10,000 gallons of water for one day,
Yeah.
that's an abnormal use of water. I don't care who it is.
No, I.
So that means you have something happening on your property that is allowing that water to flow. Because you have to remember, these are ultrasonic meters. They don't have anything that stops them from flowing. Like the old style meters that were retained internally because of the components, it was mechanical. So it held it. So it slowed down the flow of water going through the meter. So you would never know that that was happening. Now, if there's a leak or a break somewhere on the property, you're gonna know it. Because it flows and it just keeps flowing and the meter just keeps reading it. So.
I think just to deter people from calling up and saying,
Yeah,
let's do this. And, you know, you joined the report and it cost us
So-
$15.
If I'm not mistaken, Trey, we would need to amend the ordinance, right?
Correct, and I would come back with first
So
reading
that'll
next
be-
month.
So is that 2 readings?
Mhm.
Okay, so that'll give us time to give notice to
Yes.
people through.
Okay.
That'll be important, that that notice is specific to this issue because water rates have already gone up
Correct.
from
Yeah.
Delray's charge.
Correct me if I'm
Mayor-
wrong.
Mayor Paul may
Anthony, but
wanna
it's
comment.
usually overwatering. It's rarely.
Yeah.
It's usually
99% of the time it's someone that's over.
Yes, Paul?
Having your child leave the water.
I agree with all the comments. We're kind of addressing a little bit the symptom. I think, you know, there is an underlying problem that we should highlight in any correspondence, and that is the landscaping people always want to put more water on people's lawns. And I don't know whether I'm the only one who suffers under that, but I constantly have to remind our guy not to turn on the water more days. And in fact, just to highlight it, recently, somebody outside my house turned on my main water valve, which I had shut off. And of course it was on, and then I had a toilet that went on me, and it's gonna cost me about $30,000 to fix it. And you know, that happens, accidents happen, but I think we really need to communicate to the people who work on our properties that, you know, they really need not fuss with all those instruments. So
And
I don't know, maybe town manager, do you think that's part of the problem, why these bills are so high? Or am I
I
just?
totally agree with you. Pardon me. And Mr. Beltran spends a lot of time knocking on doors, and he knows all of those landscape maintenance people, and he probably on a daily basis talks to somebody about overwatering. At some point, I guess we can begin to start finding.
Still have a lot of overwatering on Polo. Some of those sprinklers go twice a day.
Twice?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we've seen
On
that.
Still's been like
They
the
don't
last
notice.
2 or 3 years, yeah.
They know if it's
Well-
required, they just don't care.
Yeah, and by the-
So expensive.
By the way, I mean, when we've had water restrictions, and this has come up in the past, you know, people, in fact, I'm recalling now that we did a study with regard to water usage related to that building on A1A, and we discovered that certain homeowners were running the water, particularly on the ocean side, a lot. And, you know, so maybe in conjunction with educating the homeowner and the landscapers, you know, we as a town, particularly when we have periods of water shortage, that we should be a little more forceful in enforcing the rules, every other
Well,
day.
yeah, that would mean writing some citations. So,
Okay.
and we can begin to do that.
Sorry,
On the worst case,
Yeah,
worst case, again, Anthony goes and knocks on doors and would you say, Anthony, that most of the time it's their landscape maintenance people that
Yeah,
are doing this?
90% of the time, they're the ones that are the accusers.
The owners don't even know.
I agree with that. The landscapers just water, if they see your yard, they just turn it up. I mean, you know that. I'm a
You have,
classic example.
you have an offender just across the way from your house,
Oh, really?
to the left. Yeah, they water every single day. And I've said something to them already about it.
Yeah, but they're never here. It's the landscapers. I mean, it's truly the landscapers, and, you know, they do it without telling you, too.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be leery about issuing the citations,
Yeah.
except in the most egregious. it can-
Right. I
That's
mean,
interesting.
anyway,
I
it's
wonder who does.
The rates are going to go up. You're going to have
Yeah.
a $30 fee.
Right.
Maybe that'll drive home the point, but
And we have published this ordinance in our
numerous
little
times.
pamphlets numerous times.
Yeah.
They probably throw those.
all right, well, this is one step anyway.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank
okay,
you, Paul.
thanks.
Okay, Mr. Dunham, Hurricane Ian impact.
Yes, we did have what we suspect, and the Weather Service is looking into it because we've given them all the pictorial evidence of it, but we did have a tornado that came off the beach. And that's why our big tree over here was knocked over. And, but we have roof tiles came off. We have roof tiles in our yard from the buildings across the street. And so it was moving in a northwesterly direction. And so we went over the building and there was just a straight debris trail that went out onto the golf course, and my understanding, it blew over a big tree close to the clubhouse.
It
over
did.
there. Okay. And so we've already had the FMIT, our insurance out here. We don't qualify for any kind of FEMA help on that. And it really wasn't that much money, but we did have to shut down A1A for about 4 hours on that Wednesday,
Really.
clearing off.
Tuesday night was.
Does insurance cover landscaping damage?
No.
I don't think so.
No, it does not. But what we did learn about our big tree over here was that it was in very bad shape. It had been infested by carpenter ants. The big at the base had a hole in the middle of it about that big, and the root systems had tunnels in them. And so, the first big blow was gonna make that tree fall over like that.
Or we can replace it.
Well, so
that's the issue.
Yeah, that's
So
part of my conversation is
Okay.
we just want to get opinions from you as to how to replace it. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people would like another big tree to be there, but we didn't know whether you might want to have some flowering plants, perhaps a monument type welcome to Gulfstream or Gulfstream Town Hall sign out there. So we're open to suggestions as to how you want us to treat this.
Tom has a good idea.
Yeah.
Not put anything.
We should have a welcome to Gulfstream sign. No, actually, in all seriousness, I think that if you talk to a lot of landscape architects, we should have another branching tree there. So I don't know what the planting height would be.
Well, so this gentleman here can tell us about the cost and the availability. A lot of the big trees like that are already taken. And I
In
think,
order for us to really be able to find a specimen that's gonna be remotely anywhere near the size of what was there, it's not gonna happen because they have to be able to transport it. And the corridor to get it here is very narrow. So we would have to find something that has no more than maybe a 10 to 12 foot span, the top size of it laying down for them to be able to bring it through. And then just the cost of moving that tree from where it's got to come to get here, because we're not going to find anything close by that, just remotely that size. We're going to have to find probably, like Mr. Mayor said, it's going to have to be out of state in order for us to find it.
what would you estimate the cost to bring something of that size?
They'll probably charge about $1,500 for the shipping of it itself, and then the tree is probably going to be somewhere in the vicinity of in between $4,000 and $6,000. And then they have someone put it in and stand it up and then prep it and get it ready. You're probably close to 10 grand by the time it's all said and done.
but what size are you talking about there with?
It'll probably be a little bit smaller than what's already left outside there now.
Okay.
And it'll be smaller in circumference on the top side of it. But the root system will be similar to that.
To Gulfstream on Sea Road. And it seems to me we need to start somewhere. and
Right.
let generations ahead enjoy the beauty of a much larger tree. But I guess what we're looking for is consensus on a budget for us to replace that tree.
The only other thing that's gonna be the issue is the availability of it.
Right.
You know? I mean, I can spend hours on the phone and looking on internet, you know, to see if I can find a tree farm that has any.
You're
And
talking
hoping
the
that it's-
same tree.
Well, that was a live oak. I would suggest just a regular oak because they're a little hardier.
Yeah.
The wood is a little harder. It's not accessible to the carpenter ants like they are. I had a company come out and take a look at the site itself, and they said that they can put out 7 satellite different farms of ant burrows from the main one, which was the one that
Wow.
was underneath the tree. And they can spread out as far as 300 feet apart from each other.
So we have treated for.
So,
What about a different specimen than an oak? What about a different specimen than oak,
That's what I was saying.
you know?
Like a giant sea grape tree or something.
Banyan.
Royal Poinciana.
Yeah.
That's
big
pretty,
royal would be
actually.
beautiful, yeah.
They're beautiful. They're
It's
messy,
too big though.
but they're beautiful.
They get
Poncianas,
Uh-huh.
they
huge.
create a canopy and they'll kill everything
Kill it,
underneath.
right.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
beautiful, but
Yeah,
they are.
no, they are.
I kind of
Yeah,
heard
they're very
problems.
destructive.
They're very messy.
Yeah, sea grapes are really.
There are some
messy.
other branching flowering trees that are native to Florida we could probably look at.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's early in the morning. I can't call them.
Do you have any
Well, maybe,
ideas?
And neither can I.
Maybe do you want us to approve a budget not to exceed
Yeah.
$10,000?
Yeah.
But
I was thinking maybe even a little more than that. I trust staff won't spend it just because we allot it, but I don't want to tie them to 10 if it costs 11. So
So I didn't want to say 12.
maybe we
Maximum
had
12, that's
$12,000,
right.
up to $12,000.
And also look at maybe a flowering tree that's
Yeah,
pretty, I
yeah,
mean, that'd be
giant
really
flowering
pretty too.
tree.
And this is Anthony's expertise.
I
so we
know,
can
well.
Kind of defer to
We
him.
don't
I don't know
have one
about
back here in our
expertise, it's
nursery,
just
do
I've
we?
been doing it for.
About that big.
He shies away from those kind
So
of.
why don't we just come back next meeting when we
See what,
Yeah.
give us-
I'll do
see
some
what you
research and
come
see
up
what I
with,
can
with
find and then
pictures and see what we
See if I
got.
can get someone to give me some sort of a price on
Yeah,
on
within
the
a
specimen.
$10,000 to $12,000.
Okay, no
Like a,
problem.
what, like a 12-foot
Full-
canopy
Fully
maybe.
installed.
It
Okay.
doesn't have to be huge. You just have to be able to get it in here and get a
Correct.
10, 12-foot canopy.
It will grow.
It'll grow.
And
beautifully.
I'll say one more thing about that tornado. When you see on the weather, local channels, and they have those polygons and show where that red and green come together. I was watching and Gulfstream was in one of those polygons and it matched the time that thing
Yeah.
hit. So,
Well, your phone went off about 5:30 in the
Yeah.
morning.
yeah.
Yeah, that's literally what it was. Okay, thank you. ARPB meeting will be October 27th at 8:30 a.m. Anyone who wishes to attend. Finance report. We're done.
Yes, so this is the year-end report. However, we will have revenues and expenses, certain revenues and expenses for the last current fiscal year will be that we get in the first couple of October and November will be allocated back to the last year's budget. We do that every year. And then, of course, as you know, Rebecca has to come and do some budget adjustments in November. So that's really all I have to.
Very good. I mean,
Oh, yeah, I think Rebecca does have something she needs to add.
Rebecca?
I was adjusting the reporting parameters on the water fund, and I accidentally caught an expense account twice. So you have an updated water fund report. So I apologize, but I have fixed it.
And I think we need to thank Mr. Spence for
Yes, thank you.
catching that.
Okay, always good to have an
And that-
accountant on board.
Good, yeah.
Very good. Police report, Captain Haslett.
Thank you, Mayor. I ask that the September activity report be accepted as submitted.
Any questions? Captain? Comments? And we'll accept it as submitted. I see Mr. Minor is
Thank you.
here. Could you want him to comment on something? He's going to be handling first. Okay, very good.
Mr. Mayor, sort of on the same thing, someone has sent me picture of a sign from a community up north that had a sign in the entrance to their town coming and leaving about noise ordinances or something. Did you ever discuss that here in the town about, the motorcycles on Saturday and Sunday afternoon are kind of really, really super loud on A1A? You guys don't ever hear those? No?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Is there any way to, no, I don't know whether you'll regulate, I mean, can you pull them over, turn your lights on and, I don't know.
In an attempt, the issue is most of them won't stop.
Okay.
And they know we won't pursue them, for something, especially if there's no major traffic violation. So that would be extremely difficult.
Hard to do to
enforce.
police, yeah, okay.
Can they turn down the noise of their motorcycles?
No, but they can, they, it's like kind of rev them up and they kind of race from point to point until they see you and then they slow down to 35 miles.
There's a lot of cars and today production being put out and motorcycles, and they're excessively loud right from the dealer,
Oh, interesting.
and it's the way they're driven, and that's what you're hearing. As far as getting the compliance from people to
Very
not
hard.
do that is probably not going to happen.
Right up there with bicyclists.
Thank you.
A related issue is the pelotons, which are supposed to travel in single file, but often are, 4, 5, 6 across. We've had difficulty controlling that in the past. Is there a way to determine the cycle organization that they're with and contact?
If they're in a group, like a sanctioned race or something like that, we can track back where they originated from. In the past, we have met with these bicycle groups. All the coastal communities have, the police departments, in an attempt to address that issue from within their own group.
Right.
It usually lasts maybe a couple of weeks or a month, and then they go right back to riding the way they want. Some people are very compliant out there, we observe, and others, you'll get the same ones over and over constantly. So we do advise them, the officers do, try to educate them on how they should be riding and what their current laws are. And a lot of them will, abide by that, but the majority of them just ride. They won't stop for you. They don't carry ID, a lot of them, and they do their own thing.
But you can't stop them either.
You can't stop them if they don't have a valid reason.
That's what I was going to say. Even with motorcycles, if you've got a group of 10 or 12, to try to go start, to stop them or one of them might cause accidents.
It's a liability if you go to stop them and you put 20 of them on the ground. What was the reason you tried to stop them? Just to advise them they're not single file or whatever. The liability surpasses the out.
We're not trying to get out of it, but it's
The only time it's really bad is when they go the whole lane. I mean, if they ride 2 or whatever. You
There's one group, they ride twice a week.
They take up the whole lane.
It's like a swarm.
But I
There's
think-
40, 50, 60 of them.
You can't do anything until.
But I think our officers do, when they're there and they see them,
Right.
Yeah.
they do follow them and they'll
Put the
hit
lights on.
the
Yeah, we'll
sign a
follow them
couple
through
times.
town, but you're not going to stop them. And like we discussed, the liability of trying to discuss. You got 60 bicyclists and you got 2 or 3 officers, We've done saturation patrols with the sheriff's office, Ocean Ridge, us, Highland Beach, even Delray together. So you may have 20 officers to stop this group and cite them or educate them or whatever. And again, 2 weeks later, you're right back to original problems. So
Okay, well, that sums it
we
up.
do what we can.
Yeah, no,
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the ordinances, ordinance 22/8. First of all, Mr. Nazaro, do you want to?
Sure, I'll introduce this. This is the annexation ordinance for the Pahota residents that we had the variances for. So as instructed and requested, they are seeking to annex the sort of lost small parcel. Excuse me. In advance, we're going to have first reading this month. The application has been resubmitted for ARPB approval this month, and then we will have our second reading for the annexation ordinance, and ideally that application at the next meeting. So this is just sort of the first reading, and I don't know if, and we do have Marty Miner here who worked on me with the ordinance and the annexation materials, and Chris Bernardo who represents the interests of the Pahodas. So I don't know if there are any questions, but it's largely what we wanted to do.
Right.
And everything's sort of going according to plan with the annexation happening first, and then the no variances being on the Pahodas home application.
Okay. Before we read it, are there any questions for Mr. Minor? We kind of went over this in detail previously and indicated that we should wait until possible annexation before reconsidering their application. So
do we have to have any approval from any other governmental authority besides the town of Gulfstream or consent?
Right. So we are sending out a notice to the county, which we're required to do, and following those steps. Again, we've been working with Marty, who knows what he's doing. Right, Marty?
yeah, Marty, why don't you just give us a summary of this before we read it?
So we're largely following 171.044 Florida statutes, which is the process for voluntary annexation. We've reviewed the application. All the property owners have signed the application. It's only the Pahodas. It doesn't create any enclaves or non-contiguous parcels, so it's still part of Gulfstream. So these are the sort of legal requirements that we're required to do. Everything else is really just a notice. So based on our analysis of the statute, we're working with Clerk Basil and sending out that notice. As required by the statute. And it's a fairly straightforward procedure because it's a small area and it's requested by the property owner.
Right, and I'll make a point. There is a policy within the town's comprehensive plan that requires an annexation report. How this will impact the provision of municipal services for this annexation. We did that as part of the larger annexation several years ago. Since this parcel is so small, 100 by 8 feet at the widest triangle piece, around 700 square feet. There's no impact to any of the services. The only impact is a positive impact for the lot that's adjacent to it. So we did review this. We reviewed it, requested the sketch and legals, all the required deeds. We will notify, the town will notify the county afterwards and the state, part of the state, for their records. And so that's it. If there's any other questions.
So is the county, have you spoken to the county? Or
The county have already been notified prior to this.
Very good.
No comments.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
All right, we've been presented with ordinance 22/8. First reading is
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, providing for the annexation into the corporate limits of the Town of Gulfstream, Florida, of certain real property consisting of approximately 707 square feet, more or less, generally located immediately south of 996 Pelican Lane, providing for and authorizing the updating of the town boundaries within the town charter and all official town maps, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date, this first reading, October 14th, 2022.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 22/8?
I'll move to approve ordinance 22/8.
Now I'll second the motion.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Ordinance 22/9. Back at you.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 70, Gulfstream Design Manual, Article 4, Site Development Regulations, Section 7078, seawall height to increase the maximum permitted seawall height, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. This first reading, October 14th, 2022.
Ordinance 22/9 has been brought to us on first reading. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve ordinance 22/9.
I'll second the motion.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Ordinance 22/10.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 14 Elections, Section 14.4, filing requirements by adjusting the qualifying period for candidates, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date. This first reading, October 14th, 2022.
Thank you. Ordinance 22/10 has been presented on first reading. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve ordinance 22/10.
I'll second it.
Renee?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthline,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Thank you very much. Any other comments from the commission? If not,
Mayor, before we
Sure.
conclude, so the ordinance that we just passed on first reading for moving the qualifying date, that was the suggestion by the supervisor of election. We had already moved it to December I guess 3 years ago, when I worked with Rita on that. We kind of thought it was silly that we'd be qualifying so early in the year. But that was what they wanted, to make sure that they could send out like overseas ballot, things like that, mail-in ballots, right? There was an indication from them that they wanted it moved again for, a similar reason. We have a new supervisor of elections. We could have moved it to a few weeks earlier, but that would have coincided with the Thanksgiving holiday, and the supervisor of election did not want that. So this is an election that is a long way away. So Renee and I sat down as soon as you became the clerk, and we did the math, and there's no way for us to properly advertise second reading and approval at our regularly scheduled meeting. So we're going to need to have a special meeting before the qualifying starts, because qualifying, and I'm speaking to all of you here, starts the first, pursuant to the ordinance, will start the first Tuesday in November, which is before our next meeting. So to meet the requirements, we need to either have a special meeting just for second reading on this ordinance, either October 31st or the Friday before, which Renee is
28th.
the 28th. So I don't know what the availability is for everyone, and I apologize for this oversight.
I won't be here on the 28th. Second is better for me.
It's the 31st is Monday.
Halloween or the 28th.
Halloween, what day of the week is that?
That's Friday.
Monday.
It's either
Monday.
the Monday or the
31st
Friday.
or Monday. 28th is a Friday.
October 28th. I don't know. Well, we don't need everybody, do we?
Nope.
Just a quorum,
And it'll only be 5 minutes.
First
if
thing in the
that.
morning or?
Wait, what
and
time?
we could do it
We can do
at
it anytime.
any time you want.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock
We
at
could do it.
night.
We could absolutely do it at 8 o'clock.
We have priorities.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
All right, so what would you like?
I don't know.
Friday,
That's October 28th.
Mhm.
TBD, but let's just do it.
what time?
October 28th.
Do you want 8 or 8:30?
I don't know.
Something earlier than that.
No.
9 o'clock,
He wants something earlier than 9.
8:30?
8:30, good?
8:30 Friday.
8:15?
We can do it. You got 10, 8:15? Yes, you can. It
It
doesn't-
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, whatever Tom wants.
Whatever Tom wants.
8:15?
8:15, yes.
8:15 on the 28th.
This is tennis.
And I'll send out a reminder to you guys.
Okay, very good.
Somebody's has to do it.
Anything else?
Mayor, I'm sorry. I will only take one more minute. I promise. So the application for the rezoning in Delray next to Place Au Soleil, they filed a lawsuit saying that they were deprived of their due process rights because the hearing was not quasi judicial. So they filed suit. The city attorney who I met with yesterday, this is why it's being added here at the last minute, said she spoke with their commissioners. They have decided to, instead of fight the lawsuit, they're going to redo the hearing with a quasi judicial process. The first hearing is October 25th. I've already alerted Ingrid Kinnemer and Chet Snavely, Malcolm Murphy, and Rob Canfield, who are some of the parties over there that participated in the first opposition. So just by way of an update, we kind of knew that there would be something coming up. Unfortunately, it's happening sooner than later, and it's just sort of a redo of their rezoning from automotive commercial to general, from general commercial, automotive commercial. So I just wanted to update you on that because the first hearing will happen before our next commission meeting, and then the second hearing is sometime in November. So we are continuing to pay attention to that and fight it consistent with the way that we did before.
Very good.
So thank you
All
all.
right. Good job. If there's nothing else, thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.
Good job.